In a world full of distractions, there is one big question on every dog owner's lips.
How do I become more than just the person holding the other end of the leash?
We all get dogs with a dream in mind, a vision of the future. And if right now your everyday reality isn't quite that picture you had in mind, you are in the right place.
It really doesn't have to be this way.
You absolutely can and will be more to your dog than just the person who gets in between them and the world.
The key is you need to be more sexy.
More sexy than the neighborhood cat.
More sexy than the jogger in the park.
More sexy than that half-eaten hamburger they just found on the floor.
And yes, even more sexy than the dog across the road.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Lauren.
Together we're Absolute Dogs.
And you're listening to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast, the podcast that teaches you how to be the center of your dog's world and unlock freedom.
I think we had a moment there of, I think Classic almost like was in shock. She sat up my legs and she heard the start, and we'd been chilling. And I think that's about what today really is, right?
Absolutely.
Like calmness. Like, are they calm in the face of some adversity or something difficult? Are they calm in their life? Are they calm in your household? Are they calm on a walk? And when I say are they calm, what do I mean? I mean your dog. Is your dog calm when you take them out for a walk? Is your dog calm when you, I don't know, have a visitor? How is life with your dog?
Yeah. And the thing is, calmness is so important, because if your dog is experiencing the emotion of calmness, guess what? We can guarantee that they are actually also behaving entirely appropriately, whether that is, lying down calmly. You can't help but describe some behaviors with the word calmly after them, whether it is that they're looking up at you and just giving you gentle eye contact, whether it is that they're walking nicely on lead, whether it is that they're listening. They're going to do all of those things best when they are experiencing the emotion of calmness.
Now, I'm listening, and I know lots of people here are listening in on this, and I'm listening to what you're saying there, and I'm looking down at my side, and I can see, I know you guys are listening to us, so you can't necessarily see us, but I'm looking, and actually, I've got a very calm little dog by my side. I've got a very calm little dog. And that was something that we didn't always have, right, Tom? We didn't always have calmness, not just with our own dogs, but actually all of our students' dogs, all of our clients all across the world. It was more stressful living with dogs that weren't calm, right?
Absolutely. In a household where you're missing calmness, there'll be some clues that maybe you could have some more calmness. And one of those clues is it's a very subtle clue, this one, and that is barking and noise. Because if you've got a household where you're like, I just would love my dog not to bark quite so much as they do right now, that probably means that you need calmness, because a calm dog is not a barking dog.
And the interesting thing here, I think, is that actually barking is one of the most noticed things when it comes to calmness. So people notice barking. Why? Because it's annoying and it's noisy and it gets the neighbors involved and it kind of involves other people. However, let's think other ones that actually are really less, maybe like Tom says, really one that hits you in the face, like the subtle noise barking. That is a problem. But let's think of something maybe way less obvious, and let's think of something like, I don't know, a dog who paces.
Yeah.
So a dog who walks around the house and doesn't lie down, because I know that the more we've practiced calmness, the more that we've adapted our dogs in the way that they train, the way that they eat, the way that they work with us. Actually, my dogs spend most of their time sleeping. And I mean 99% of the day, Tom. I sometimes look at them and I'm like, I'll get them up. And then they want to go back to sleep again. I'm like, really?
They don't get their 10,000 steps a day or whatever it is that you're meant to do.
And actually, I most of you guys know that I compete at top level with my agility dogs. So I really want high energy dogs. So at first I had this whole thing in my head, Tom, where I was kind of thinking, well, is this going to be counterproductive to having winning dogs? Because I really do. I adore being a dog owner. I absolutely love day-to-day life with my dogs. But I also do love owning a high drive agility dog too. I like that part. I love the competition. So I was kind of in two minds whether I could have both. Oh my God, you can have both and more. And the cool thing is my dogs are faster than ever, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so guys, what we're saying to you is that you need more calmness in your life. You can never have too much calmness. A dog can never be too calm. And I think this is one thing that sometimes we think that it's all about excitement. It's all about having this excitement-based relationship with your dog. It's all about your visitors having excitement interactions with your dog.
Yeah, your presence is going to be fun. Your presence is going to mean there's a party. Your presence is going to mean let's all go disco. You know what? It's absolutely not what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to devote an entire episode of the podcast to really talk about calmness and how you can grow it. Don't worry about where you are right now. We've probably identified that maybe we could benefit from a little bit more calmness. So now what do we do about it? So I guess the first thing to talk about and to say and to consider is that there are certain tools that we have as dog owners, as dog trainers to inspire calmness, right?
Like the thing is, I think that's one of the least known things that you can make a huge difference, right? The tools that you have in your toolkit, and don't worry if you haven't got them yet, we're going to arm you with them today. So you're going to leave literally with a full toolkit. Actually, I suppose I didn't realize quite how much we influence it. Yeah. And actually our whole demeanor, our whole training program revolves around actually developing this toolkit so that we can enhance it. Because the dog I have sat next to me right now, Classic, she was the most insanely bonkers, busy, excited, noisy, fizzy, wouldn't settle, wouldn't stop whining, wouldn't stop pacing, wouldn't stop generally being difficult to own for me. Like she made me feel quite stressed. Yeah. You know what? She's the easiest dog to own. She's sat at our side now, chilling. Like that is what she does all the time. And that's purely through this toolkit. Right, so the toolkit, how does it start?
So the first piece of this toolkit is that, as you know, we can reward our dogs for things that they do great. We can reward our dogs for choices that they make. And the thing is, those reward experiences, they typically involve like food or they involve a toy. The key is that actually the way that we deploy those rewards influences whether our dogs stay calm or they get excited. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we'll go with an object of reward. We'll go with a piece of kibble. Now, this piece of kibble, it can be rolled, it can be thrown, it can be caught, or it can be calmly delivered to the floor very slowly, very gently, and you are drifting off into a deeper and deeper sleep. If you're driving, please wake up. But the point is that, you know what, we can influence.
I thought we were going to go into some calm meditation app or something then.
We can influence the emotion that results from a way that we interact with our dogs by the way that we do it. And I think we sometimes underestimate that there's variety in that. And we get stuck on this idea of fast feed to mouth. The reality is that one of our, some of our greatest power as dog owners and dog trainers comes in the form with which we deliver these rewards.
And then let's think secondly, actually, what games are we choosing in the first place? So many times I watch people pick the wrong games for the wrong dog. Now, let's take Classic, the dog who I've just said is asleep at my side and behaving like an absolute chilling sort of very, very, very calm little mini American. And that's she's her.
Horizontal.
Yeah, you know what? It's cool to see. I wouldn't pick games like, I don't know, let's think of the high drive games for her would be figure of 8 leg weaves, or spinning, let's do some tunnels, spinning, let's do bouncing, right? Or maybe the one that I know you're training the poodle pup right now, bouncing off tunnels, right? Like, or bouncing off objects, or like put your feet on everything confidently.
And that is appropriate for some dogs where we're wanting to build engagement and energy and drive.
Completely.
But actually, what we see is often people will say, my dog is just wired, and we say, okay, they're wired. That sounds. And we're like, sounds extreme.
What game are you playing? I'm playing Catch Me If You Can, running around tunnels. I'm playing Bounce at Me. I'm playing Jump on Objects.
And then you look at their whole demeanor, and they're like throwing their arms in the air, and they're jumping up and down, and they've got like this like energized face as they're saying it, and you're like, yeah, I can see. You're a little bit wired too.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is that actually, if we're intentional about the interactions with which we have with our dogs, well, the cool thing is that they are a product of what they do every day. If they spend their time in calmness and we promote calmness, well, they'll be calmer.
It's let's not pick the wrong games for the dog, right? Like let's pick games that are conducive to what we're trying to grow. So if we're trying to grow calmness, let's not pick fast movement, busy spinning. Yeah. If we're trying to grow, I don't know, optimism, then maybe those are appropriate. What we need to look at is what is most appropriate at the moment. So I think it's pick the appropriate games for your dog would be my next sort of learning point.
And so with these tools, we can then start to think, okay, we've got these tools. We've got the two tools that all of our calmness training is based on. Firstly, we can reward our dogs in certain ways to promote more calmness. And the second one being that our dogs will become more of what they do every day, and we get to decide what they do every day. Now what we need to think about is, well, what strategies and games and approaches might we use to inspire calmness in our dogs? And the first one that immediately springs to mind is one that we call the Calmness Triad, right?
Yeah, and the Calmness Triad is actually a way of life. Like, it's not so much, I mean, we've called it a game, but actually this is really life, right? Like, this is a triangle of life. Yeah. And what we're looking to do is capture opportunities at every moment to make this established learning in every household.
Yeah. And so it's made up of three things, hence the name Triad. And the three things are, firstly, that there are certain activities that we can do with our dogs that are going to promote more calmness. So, for example, we call them passive calming activities. And let's say we give our dogs something to chew on. Well, the act of chewing or the act of licking actually promotes more calmness. Equally, maybe we do some scatter feeding and they have to search and scent out their kibble that we've thrown in the grass. Well, the act of doing that is going to promote even more calmness. Maybe we do some massage with them as a way of interacting with them, and just by the nature of being massaged, well, they're going to feel more calm about that. So that's kind of one component with which our dogs spend their day. The second component is, you know what, sometimes our dogs are just going to naturally make the choice to be calm. They're going to chill out, they're going to lie down, they're going to kick their legs out.
Sometimes it does depend on the dog's age, right? Like some dogs, I know that dogs like Bet and Blink probably didn't make this decision for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like it was
a big day when they did that.
We couldn't actually, I remember saying to you, I don't think I've ever seen Blink close her eyes, like fairly appropriate with her name. Yeah. But I don't actually think she's ever closed her eyes, Tom. Like if you're looking at her, she's like literally pupils staring. Yeah. And yet we absolutely know that she must sleep. It's just that they couldn't settle. Like they weren't dogs who would naturally be just going and putting themselves in a lie down.
Absolutely. And Bet, I remember if I wasn't careful, she would do like fake calm, where she'd be like, I'm being calm, my head is pressed to the floor. And she'd do this thing where she'd close her eyes, but they were like, you know, when like a little, like a child like closes their eyes and they like close them really tightly shut. Like, you see, I'm closing my eyes.
And she'd be like peeking out the corner,
and then
right?
If you move just a centimetre, she'd be like, I see you. So that wasn't real calmness. And so the key is that there are going to be times where our dogs naturally are doing real calmness. They're really experiencing that emotion of calmness. They're making all the choices associated with being calm. And we can, you know, capture that and just maybe pop a little bit of their daily food allowance in front of them. We call this Calmness Protocol. And, you know, we're not saying that, you know, you sit down and you're like, you know what, now I am doing Calmness Protocol. Because chances are, if you do that, you're probably not going to see it. But throughout the day, you're going to see these little signs of calmness. You just need to be like normal human beings. Yeah. You need to be normal human beings. You need to wander around normally. It's not this like, oh, I'm going to sit down and practice calm. I remember we had a great student who said to us, she messaged, she was like, oh my God, look, I've got real life calmness here. And she had this action prompting mess on the bed in front of her. It was literally like headbutting.
Literally, like I was like, no, this is.
I am being calm.
Now,
I am being
look at
calm.
me.
Feed me.
So it was complete action prompting. There was nothing calm about it, right, Tom?
Yeah.
And yet, if we don't almost capture it on a day-to-day basis, this is not something you're going to sit down and go, right now, I shall do a calm session.
And then there's the third component of the triad, and that is active rest. Now, what active rest is where we actively take away a lot of our dog's choices so that they are then in a place where they can rest. And so for more inexperienced dogs, for dogs that maybe they would, you know, they don't make the best choices and we need to, you know, inspire calmness, going back to that idea that they will become more of what they do every day and for the majority of the day, utilizing things like spaces of your house, rooms of your house where all they do is be calm in there, utilizing things like puppy pens, crates, for more experienced dogs hopping up on a boundary and staying there. The key is that these spaces tip the balance on calmness, and they have that opportunity to not be exhausted by the amount of choice that they're exposed to all the time. And we start to get a majority of calmness. And when you have a majority of something in dog training, the brain starts to reshape to do more of that every day without your input. And that's the aim of these strategies.
So it's almost like a Zen-like space, right?
Yeah.
Like they go there and it's like you naturally, I don't know, something like going to a spa, like you naturally go there and you just sort of immediately feel better just from being there.
You don't go to the disco to go to sleep,
no,
right? You don't go to the zoo to go to sleep. And what a lot of like people's day-to-day households are like, no offense guys, but your household is like a zoo.
Oh, my Tom, this is a podcast that we want people to listen to. Don't
to your
don't
dog,
insult
just
them.
to clarify, to your dog. And the key is that a lot happens, right? A lot happens second by second. People coming, people are
You
going.
did that here. You did hear that here. Your house is like a zoo.
Your house is like
You
a zoo
heard
to
it
your
here
dog.
first.
And then we're surprised when they can't rest and they're not choosing that emotion of calmness. So the cool thing about active rest is you are 100% in control of this, and you can. This might be your starting point
And
right now.
actually, I should say again, with Madam sat at my side here, it's something
That's
that
classic,
you.
not
That's
me,
classic.
by the way. Just to clarify.
I call him Madam at weekends. Basically, with her at my side here, she's practicing what I want to rehearse, right? So she's practicing exactly what I'm looking to grow more of. She's rehearsing more of the state I want her to become. And actually, this is something that I almost feel like people should use this in their time. This is net time. This is no extra time. It doesn't take me any extra time. And I'm putting her in this space when it doesn't take me extra time. So actually, that's a really nice option for everybody to know that if you are looking to rehearse it, one of the best ways to rehearse some of these is actually when you're doing another thing and your actual attention, like my attention is really not on her very much other than to go, hey, this fits well with what we're doing today, right? Like it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the kind of next strategy, and this leads nicely on from that, is that we've got to be aware of that there are times of day where our dogs will struggle with calmness, right? We all have this where, I don't know, it's like 6 o'clock in the evening and
People call it the witching hour.
The witching hour happens and our dogs struggle with calmness, or maybe it's early morning and everybody's getting ready for work or school and our dogs are struggling with calmness. Dogs are creatures of efficiency, and what that is they have upregulated all of their stress hormone in their brain because they are anticipating things to happen. So whenever your dog is struggling with calmness and you want them to be calm, that's because they're anticipating something based on past experience. And that past experience has come from you, whether you realize it or not. That whether it's that everybody is in the same room at 6 o'clock on an evening, and it's more like the hustle and bustle of the family environment, or maybe 6 o'clock in the evening is when you usually train your dog or walk your dog. Those stress chemicals, they've been upregulated and your dog is readying themselves for excitement. So the kind of next strategy that we want to talk about is ditching that routine, and I guess being responsive to the fact that when we're wanting calmness and our dogs are doing the opposite, that means we really have to make it clear to them this is about calmness. And when somebody is predicting something, you've got to be really clear that they're not getting that. Because if you give them a little bit of excitement in that time, if you're like, oh, okay, just 30 seconds of playing, or we'll go for a little like 5-minute walk around the block. What's happened there is you just reaffirmed their whole prediction there. And what you've done is you've then ensured that the next day, those stress chemicals are going to be upregulated again. So we had this little joke that when our dogs are like, they've got their disco outfit on and they think that they're going to the disco, we say, oh, actually this is time for pajamas, and we purposefully do an incredibly calming activity with them, whether that's a passive calming activity, whether that's some active rest, whether that's feeding and rewarding our dogs using those calming deliveries of reward, so that we actively kind of counteract that upregulation and we inspire calmness.
And we're actively looking for a change in demeanor. We're actively looking for a dog who they don't just look visibly different, but everything about their energy feels different, and that's what you're looking for more and more. So I would say when I first started this a good few years ago now with my own dogs, and like I said, I was skeptical. I won't lie. I was skeptical about sort of making my house calmer because I was so up for really high drive agility dogs. Like that was always what my head told me I wanted. And then I kind of we thought it through hard, and I really wanted a more settled space when visitors came in. I wanted all of those things, and it really works for changing demeanor, right? Like, and that is what we're looking for all the time, is a change in demeanor. So this doesn't just change them in the sort of workspace. This changes the whole life space, and yet doesn't lose anything in work, because actually when you do decide to train them, it's like they know when to put the disco pants on.
Absolutely.
It's like they know when is appropriate to get into their sort of action pants. Like that's what we're looking for.
I don't know if that's entirely appropriate.
Action pants.
So the next strategy leads on from that, not quite that exact point, but a similar
action
one.
pants.
Okay,
I'm waiting for this.
Our dogs soon learn that our movement, so their owner's movements, are important. And what I mean by that is that they soon learn that, you know what, if you're getting up off that sofa, you are going to go to a different room and you're going to do something. And dogs like to, you know, if you're leaving the room, well, chances are they might follow you, and it might be that you're doing something in that room that they might be interested in, and so they're with you. And we never as humans kind of intentionally do something without purpose. And so I was talking to someone today about this. Actually, you know, there's real value in, you know, just standing up and sitting down, or, you know, walking towards the door and then heading back to the sofa and sitting down.
Really a bit like how I feel when I leave the house normally, because I always run back to grab something, right? And you always check the door. You always check the door. So it's those sorts of moments. It's like, oh, check the door. Oh, pop back upstairs. It might be get up, put the kettle on, get back down, sit down. Get up, make the cup of tea, go back, sit down, go back to the bathroom, then go back and sit down again. So it would be all of those things on a day-to-day basis that I really do ditch the routine.
Yeah, absolutely. So being aware of maybe when the lens cap is on the camera,
that's also something that's interesting
I
too.
just
funny.
Spotted something that was quite funny.
That's quite funny. Good moment. I did think when I saw you guys, just so you're in on our joke, so our sessions are filmed just in case we want to use it for anything else later on. And I did notice there was a lens cap on there, and I thought that's interesting. Maybe it like goes through like a dark filter or something. And then Tom's like, no, that's why the camera's not working. There is a lens cap on it.
So, you know, sometimes we especially when we're tired and, you know, we've got things to focus on throughout the week, and we've got our own like routine and focuses that are maybe outside of what our dog owning is and our dog training is. Sometimes we become reactive to situations. In other words, you know, our dogs follow us from room to room, and we just, you know, we react to it, and we don't think, you know, why is that? Or maybe our dogs lack calmness at certain times of day, and again, we try and react to it in the moment, and we probably get, you know, a reactive approach is quite frustrating, and you probably experience that emotion of frustration. And the challenge is that we don't realize that day in, day out, these are relationship withdrawals. And because day in, day out, they're relationship withdrawals, this is probably a battle worth fighting. This is probably something worth investing in. And the best way to do that is by proactively kind of deploying the strategies and games and techniques that we've talked through in this episode.
Correct. And I think the biggest thing is that it's achievable for everyone. Like, right, if you do this, it's fairly straightforward. Yeah. It is achievable. And it's being more conscious, right?
Yeah, and you might think, oh, you know, it's not a big deal. I don't mind that he follows me to the bathroom, and I don't mind that he only sleeps like 10 minutes of the day, and I don't mind. But actually, you do mind, because you're getting mildly frustrated about these things.
Ultimately, it's about long-term health too, right? Like, they are going to be healthier when they live longer, right? Like, it's going to be a better space to be in for them and absolutely. For us. And that's, we want them longer. They want to be around longer, right? Yeah. Like, it's going to help everyone. Calmness, and so for me, it's longevity too.
Absolutely. Calmness is a happier emotion. It's a healthier emotion. It's a more long-lived
and
emotion.
It's always an appropriate emotion. Yeah. Like, what I love with it is that when I get my dogs out and about, whether I have them in a new space, like I'm staying away for the weekend, or whether I'm competing, or wherever I am, calmness is almost always entirely appropriate. And even
easy, right?
even for me when I'm in competition, where I don't want them like completely calm, I still want them calm focused. Right, like even I ask them to be like switch the light on and be in arousal, but at the same time it's still calm with the way that they're thinking. Yeah. I don't want them hot-headed.
Default is calm.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
So with that, guys, you've got a lot of strategies to kind of deploy.
We've covered a lot.
And what we're saying really is that really invest in this. You know, this might be something that you can tolerate, but you know what? You're not listening to this podcast because you want to tolerate things. You're not listening to this podcast because you want to survive. You want to thrive. So deploy these strategies. They're going to be fun, and they're going to top up your relationship. We'll see you in the next episode of Sexier Than a Squirrel. And as always, remember,
stay sexy.
Hey, before you go, have you taken part in the worldwide Sexier Than a Squirrel Challenge?
It's a 25-day online video program, huge energy, amazing community, and over 6,000 people are already taking part.
The only question is, you know where you are today. Where do you want to be 25 days from now? Head to absolutedogs.me/sexy.